We do have 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the March 7th meeting of the Person County Board of Commissioners to order at this time. Recognize the fact that we do have a quorum. First on our agenda would be an invocation, which I will lead if you so desire. Pray with me. And at conclusion of the prayer, we'll ask Commissioner Sims to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. May we pray together. Merciful God and Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity, the freedom that we have tonight to gather here for the citizens of Person County. We pray your blessings worldwide with different situations where such freedoms are not shared. And we pray for our military personnel who may be in those areas that are indeed in danger at this very moment in their lives and world situation. Again, we pray for your guidance and leadership, and pray that we have the understanding and relationship with you to follow that guidance. In your Son's holy name we pray. Amen. Mr. Sim.
Please, you will stand with me if you're able and salute the flag and recite after me. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda is discussion, adjustment, or approval of the agenda as presented with the addition of 2 items. First would be a request from the Board of Education for the Board of Commissioners to authorize signature of the needs-based capital infrastructure grant application and to approve a 5% match contribution if the grant is awarded. And the second would be a closed session number 1, per General Statute 143-318.11A5 to establish or to instruct the public body's staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material items of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease. We have a motion.
So moved.
So move to approve with the additional 2 items.
So
Okay.
moved.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. At this point in our meeting, we do have 10 minutes set aside for public comment. And do we have?
Yes, sir, we do. We do have one person to sign up.
Okay. We have one, so whoever that is, has 10 minutes.
All right, Mr. Jimmy Whitfield of Timberlake.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jimmy Whitfield on Timberlake. I have a couple of questions. I wanted to find out if the county could provide citizens with the listing of the COVID relief funds that we've spent to date. We've been, in this process about 2.5 years now, so there's several $1 million that have been available to the county. I know the Board of Education has some listings on their websites, but I was wondering if the county could provide that for us in some form, maybe to be published in our Courier Times or something like that. So I just wanted to make that request, if we could do that. And my second request is I wanted to find out where we are on the transition plan for the potential possible or hopefully not shutdown of our Duke Energy plants. I know that's going to be a significant tax revenue loss if those plants do shut down eventually, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. It would be something that I think the citizens would want to see the county being proactive in addressing some type of way to avert or minimize the tax revenue loss. Many of us had 25% property tax increases this past year, and that hurt. So it wouldn't feel good. I know it's been said that the Duke Energy tax revenue comprises about 20% of our income for the county. So if that were to go away, a lot of services will have to go away, or taxes will have to be raised. And so that's the kind of question and concern that a lot of citizens have. And so I would appreciate if we could, get a plan or an update on your plan or whatever activities going on to help address this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 1 on the agenda is motion to approve the consent agenda as stated on your in your packet.
Move for approval.
Have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. New business, item number 2 is 2021 Employee Engagement Survey Results. Presentation by Ms. Harrison.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm really excited to share with you guys. The HR department has put together, along with the leadership team of Person County, a comprehensive employee engagement survey that we completed in February. You guys heard a little bit about this at your retreat from Heidi, but I've got some more results to share with you and a presentation which is before you. There was also a presentation made of these results to employees this past week. So I'm going to focus on a couple of different things that would be most relevant for you. There's also that recording of the results presentation for the employees that's available that you guys can view too as commissioners. So let me just jump right in. We're going to go over an overview of the results, strengths and opportunities that were identified, comment trends that we saw, and a proposed action plan. So some things I want to highlight on this slide here is that we had 236 respondents, and that is a significant response rate for us for the survey. So we were really excited about that. And we got almost 1,500 comments from employees as well. So definitely an engaged population of employees. Another thing to note is that the pandemic has been hard on everybody. So we expected that we would hear employees have potentially some negative things to say. We were really excited to see that they took this opportunity to tell us a lot about our strengths as an organization as well. And the strengths, we have 43 areas of strength identified, you'll see there, and 45 areas of opportunity. So it was about even. Usually with a survey, when you're asking employees anonymously their opinions about things, you see a trend toward maybe the negative. So we were really excited to see some positives out of this as well. Those are really the highlights that I wanted to share here. And then also that the majority of our respondents were full-time. So next year we have an opportunity to, or the next time that we do this, we have an opportunity to see if we can engage the part-time staff a little bit more in this survey. We did have a paper version of the survey that we did and a version that was electronic. So reaching out to the employees for the paper version that are part-time is an opportunity, I think, of mine within the HR department to get even some more responses next time. So let's start with our strengths here. And I really want to share with you, you can kind of read what's on the slide here, but some of the things that are not on the slide. So you see that overall satisfaction was a strength. Some of the other areas identified within that are, I am proud to work for Person County. 80% of employees said that they're proud to work for Person County, and 78% said that they feel challenged in their current role. So that's quite positive indeed. And then we also saw a lot of employees talking about positive relationships with their supervisors. So we have, I'm not afraid to express my views to my direct supervisor. 85% agreed with that. My direct supervisor is willing to listen and assist me with questions, concerns, and problems. 84% agreed. My supervisor advocates on behalf of our team. 82% agreed with that. And then I feel supported by my direct supervisor in my role. 78% agreed with that. So we're doing quite well in that. And then in benefits also, we know that that's an important item for recruitment. So we have annual and sick leave, health, retirement, and vision and supplemental benefits were identified as strengths for Person County for what we're providing for our employees. And that's on top of these other strengths that you see on your slide here. Now, on this slide, this is our opportunities. I want to highlight the wellness interests a little bit. We've shared this with our benefits broker and with our current health provider. And they are, both teams are working really closely with us to come up with a plan for how we can address some of the interests that employees identified here. Financial health was not something that we necessarily expected. So we're trying to come up with some creative ways that we can utilize the resources that we already have and the partnerships that we already have to provide these things for employees. If this is something that employees are looking for and that we can provide with resources we already have, then hopefully they'll see results from this survey, and that'll help with our retention efforts as well and recruitment. And then one other thing I want to note here is that when Ms. York had presented to you, she had mentioned that 79% of employees prefer to be recognized with a pay increase. We also saw that quite a number of employees, which you also have on your slide, say that not only do they want to be recognized with more pay, they simply would like more pay in general. Not surprising. That is something that I think with the inflation that we're seeing, a lot of employers are looking at this and looking at their pay rates and saying, do we need to do a little bit more here? And the employees seem to be asking for that. Some comments that we have, some key takeaways with the comments here. Really, employee appreciation is something that they would like to see, and recognition. One of the things that came up is that they would like to be recognized from everybody. They would like to be recognized from their fellow coworkers. They would like to be recognized from their directors, supervisors. They would like to be recognized from the commissioners. Pre-pandemic, there were more opportunities for them to engage with the commissioners, and there haven't been as many recently. So that's something that they had identified in the comments as well, as wanting to have that connection with you guys as well, and across departments, because we haven't had that as much. I have recently said that, and also looking at this survey, have said that Person County has been, the folks that have been with Person County since before the pandemic understand that we are a potluck community that hasn't had an opportunity to have potlucks lately. So we're missing that, and we're seeing that. And that's what employees are telling us as well. But we're seeing the other side of it too. It's really tough sometimes with employees to figure out how best to support them, because we've got some folks that would really like us to get back together and connect in groups, and then other employees that are still wanting to sort of hold back a little bit and see how this pandemic plays out. So it's tough sometimes to figure out what's the right answer. So we're trying to do a little bit of both, support for a little bit of both groups. And that's part of where that increased teleworking options and increased flexibility options comes in, that employees are asking for. And interestingly, so you guys, the last time that you were with me, you heard that I was interested in a platform called NeoGov. And NeoGov does governmentjobs.com. That's where we post our jobs. And they recently did a study that showed that 45% of government agencies are offering employees the opportunity to work remotely permanently. So, and 61% of employers, and these are government employers, felt that offering flex and remote work improved their candidate pools. And this is at a time when they are seeing overall in the public sector is seeing a 21% decrease in the number of public sector applicants in their applicant pools. So that's another reason why we want to look at what some of their comments are here. And they align with the responses that we got from employees on those other questions as well. They were asking for more training, and they were asking for more development opportunities. They were asking for a little bit more support from staffing for their workloads. We understand that that's an issue that all agencies are facing right now, is trying to figure out how we can manage the workloads, how we can help our employees feel like they can take care of themselves so that they can take care of our community. And so some of that goes in line with that wellness stuff that I spoke about, and then other parts of it go in line with some of those training things, like they want to see more training on diversity, leadership, supervisory items. They want to see some information about how to have difficult conversations and how to manage stress, how to communicate better, especially in this new world we're in, and then how to have a better team environment and training on teamwork. Those are some of the things that they'd like to see from us. So an emphasis on training and development is something that they have asked for as well. Our action plan, I'll say similarly what I said to employees, which is that our action plan involves multiple folks. So it involves the employees, and when they talk about the culture in their departments, they really own part of that, a big part of that, and the way that they interact with their fellow coworkers. And then they also have an opportunity to continue to engage with us and tell us what's important to them and how they'd like to be involved. One of the things I was most excited to see is that employees do want to be involved. So when you see that overall satisfaction score, that's something that businesses generally thrive for, because it means that they are engaged enough to speak to you and to talk to you about what they're wanting. And so I encouraged employees continue to do that. You're at the top of my action plan because you're one of the most important. It takes all of us to get these things moving. I also alluded to the community partners when I was talking about our health insurance provider, and there's other community partners that we can work with as well to figure out how we can get some things continuing to move in this positive direction to capitalize on some of our strengths and then to improve upon some of the opportunities that we have. And then we have the leadership team. So that includes our department directors, and then it includes the commissioners as well as a team working together to figure out what our priorities are and where we'd like to go. So that way, the goal is that when we do the next survey and the one after that, that we continue to see improvements in these areas that they've identified as opportunities. And very important, that we maintain our strengths. That's something that gets lost sometimes. People think, okay, I have this amount of resources. I'm going to take some resources from here to give it to there. You got to be really careful about where you take it from, not to take it away from your strengths to give it to your opportunities. So hopefully we see a trend, a positive trend going forward with this. Some other action plan details that I wanted to point out here is that you have in your abstract that really I want to focus us on looking at how we can do a countywide communications plan and policy reviews and that sort of thing as well. Employees are asking for that. They have questions about some of our policies, for example, like teleworking, and they want to see us look into that. That relates to an internal HR audit that I think is necessary, that we'd like to accomplish as well. And then we have certainly the pay practices, and we have some items with regard to training that I've mentioned as well. And there's opportunities in our time to hire. It is an average time to hire in the public sector, according to NeoGov, is 3 to 4 times greater than in the private sector. So that's not necessarily Person County specifically, but that shows us that Person County can probably look into our process a little bit. And I want to thank you because we have made improvements in that with our recent update to our background checks and our vendor that we're with now. We have decreased the time to hire by almost a month with that change. So we're definitely, thank you. We're definitely working on that. So seeing some of those improvements will help with employees. And then the other piece of the puzzle that I really want to spend some time on this evening is talking about that pay piece, because Ms. York had mentioned when you spoke with her last time that we have an opportunity here to look at a total compensation structure and equity analysis. And I was not at the meeting, but was watching and noticed that there was a question of, can this be done internally? Is this something that we should be looking at? Do we have the expertise in-house that can look at these things? And really, we do have a lot of the expertise in-house to do this, but this is a component of a overall HR audit that I'm proposing. Finance does audits on a regular basis. They're required to, but it's also good practice. It's good practice to do that in HR as well. So some of the internal audit items that we want to look at is Family Medical Leave Act, so FMLA, employee records, I-9s, immigration records, EEO records, the exit process, our recruiting process, our policy manual, our required postings, and the performance management process. If we are focusing on those, and then we also have within this, this structure and equity analysis project, job description reviews, internal pay equity analysis, position grading, compensation structure design, pay practice and policy reviews, classification analysis, and total compensation market analysis to include base compensation, supplemental compensation, and benefits. These things relate to some pretty important laws. And so we've got the EEOC compliance that we'll want to look at, Fair Labor Standards Act, state wage and hour laws, Department of Labor laws, and the ADA, to name a few. And this, if we have an external partner, one of the other values is not only can we get the internal HR audit done simultaneous to this component and really maximize our time, we know that employees tend to have more confidence in an external party conducting studies with relation to pay, because they know that they don't have any sort of skin in the game, so to speak. But also, they have another perspective of that legal compliance side of things, that's what they do. That's what these partners do all the time, is look at these kinds of things. And they say, okay, when you look at the kind of study that we've done in the past, they say, okay, well, we could do this component, or we could do that component, or the other component, but then you're not getting the full picture. And they know how to pull that full picture together to make sure that the entirety of it is compliant. which is not something that the county has done in the past. And that's why this is one of the proposed action items for this study, or for this engagement survey, rather. So it's quite a strong value proposition for employees when we consider we have looked at the market, we have looked at how we want to do compensation in the future. What is our compensation philosophy? And how are we going to align our structure? We've never analyzed the structure of how we're paying. And that has caused us, when we've done other studies, to work within a structure that maybe isn't best serving us. And that's where we are running into some of these results of, I'm looking for a little bit more pay than what I'm getting. And I feel it's not even that people are saying they want more pay. Everybody wants more pay. They're saying that they feel when they are looking around that they are not fairly paid. And that's a little bit more of a concerning statement. And when I look at this, I think we know that county expenses are going up, right? Like supply lines are going up because the cost of paper is more expensive these days. We also say we expect that. We know that's going to happen. We're going to try to budget for that the best that we can when we have expenses that increase, and they are required expenses to run the operations. Employees have those same needs in their home. And so that's what they're trying to tell us, is that they need us to look at those things. Now, I think the other thing I wanted to mention is there was a question when Ms. York had presented last time about, is our turnover related to retirements? And last year's turnover, in all the turnover that we had, only 10% of it was retirements. So it's really not that. So then we have to dig a little bit deeper, and surveys like this help us to dig a little bit deeper and figure out what is it that they want. And if they are looking for the pay increase here, that's a more expensive proposition. Recognition, not so much. That's something that we can do for them on a budget very, very close to what we already have. Training, similar. Not going to see a humongous budget necessarily with that. And giving a thank you note is almost free. So if you include the increased price of paper, I suppose. But so these are some of the things that I wanted to ask you guys about today, is really based on some of this information, what your guidance would be as to which direction you'd like us to go moving forward as the staff, because we want to try to figure out how we can decrease our vacancy rate. I mean, this year-over-year increase in vacancy rate of nearly 37%. And when you heard from Ms. York last time, she had given you a number of approximately 28% is our estimated turnover rate for this fiscal year. We have seen increases since the last time that you guys were speaking. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've gotten notification of 14 additional resignations upcoming. So this is something that we need to take care of, and we need to figure out what we can do to retain employees and bring employees here, because when you look at those strengths, we've got a lot of great strengths. We've got a lot of things that can bring employees to this. And they were asking about having more communication. And some employees said, we're doing so many great things. Can we highlight these? So that's another thing that HR is working on, is how can we highlight all the strengths that we have, these wonderful benefits. One comment in there was, nobody offers some of these benefits. Nobody anywhere offers some of these kinds of benefits that we offer. And it's true that there's a lot of things that we offer. There's a lot of things with regard to our culture that we offer in Person County that some of our neighbors cannot offer, simply by virtue of being the community of Person County. So really, my question, I guess, is what action we'd like to take in particular This study that I'm proposing, this comprehensive study, I know Ellis could speak briefly on the value of these kinds of comprehensive studies as well, but there's a time that we could do this, within the budget cycle that's coming up soon. You could see a proposal on that before you. We could also start looking at an RFP sooner, because these things do take a bit of time. They take about 9 months to complete a study of this size. So really, based on that and what we're hearing here, curious on your thoughts or any questions that you have on that, or any other areas that you see here that you have ideas for on how we can support employees, and what kinds of action items you think we should be considering to be able to retain and recruit employees. I do want to also point out one other thing here with regard to a recent study, is that 80% of public sector employers are providing opportunities for upscaling employees and upskilling them. So that's development opportunities. So 80% of our competitors are doing that. And then 67% of millennial and Gen Z employees consider diversity, equity, and inclusion to be an important factor in their job search. So when our employees are telling us, I'd like some more diversity training, that aligns really with what we're seeing on those studies too. So not to make light of those are absolutely important things that we want to look at too, is how we can train and give mentorship opportunities for employees, figure out about succession planning as well. Because even though last year the retirements were only 5, right now, or sorry, that's not accurate. If I had said 5 before, that was totally wrong. 5 this year, 13 last year. So 13 last year was 10%, and so far we've seen 5 this year. We know there's going to be a few more coming, but we also have a number of employees in coming years that are going to be eligible for retirement. So we need to be looking at succession planning and mentorship opportunities for employees, and perhaps creative succession planning options as well, which we'll be diving into a little bit more in the future. Some of these ideas are not completely fleshed out. We have had this information before us for a few weeks now. So I plan to communicate with employees again in May and let them know how we're progressing on our action plan and the things that we have opted to undertake. And then again in August to continue to let them know that this is the front of our mind to take care of them and make sure that they can provide for our community. Ellis, did you have anything you wanted to add on the study?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's my invitation and my prompt. You all know that over many years now, I've represented a lot of employers as their attorney, but you also know I've served as the chief executive officer of a sizable organization that represented the municipalities in the state, and we had a responsibility to administer and operate that entity, but we also administered what amounted to a $250 million insurance company for municipalities. And I can tell you from experience that with the liability program that the league administered for cities, including Roxborough, by the way, it is amazing, it always was amazing how many of the claims, what percentage of the liability claims were employment related. Employers, public employers in particular, are always in a much stronger position if, first of all, looking long-term, there are sound and defensible personnel policies, and then management scrupulously complies with those policies in making employment-related decisions, hiring, discipline, training, termination if necessary. And you're also in a stronger position if you do things to put the organization, obviously, in a stronger position to be able to attract and retain very capable employees so that they can do their jobs well, train them so they can do their jobs well and safely and cost effectively. But why are pay and class studies, one of the recommendations, important? I can give you an actual example. Employees have a right, like everyone else, to complain, to file EEOC grievances, to file lawsuits. They're not always going to win those. Remember, my job, several parts of my job, first and foremost, advise the board about what the law allows and requires of you all in accomplishing your policies and your priorities, and provide good advice to the staff. But also look more long range with the county manager and the HR director and the department directors and some semi-autonomous officers like the sheriff, to make sure the county or the sheriff's office or the other entities are in a stronger position to prevail when those claims or lawsuits are filed. Pay and class studies. I can give you an actual example. Once when I was the League of Municipalities executive director, we had just done a pay and class study. And I swore I was going to retire before we ever did another one. They are not fun. They are absolutely essential. Without doing them and making sure that you're competitive externally and that you have internal equity, so that you don't start a brand new employee up here and other employees who've been working for the county for 10 years with the same level of responsibility are down here. That's a problem with internal equity. If you don't do those studies every now and then, you get yourselves into an indefensible situation. A group of our employees and some former employees filed an EEOC grievance. We didn't see that coming because they didn't come talk to us first. They were alleging discrimination. There was no basis to that claim. But we had the evidence because we had just done the pay and classification study. And all we looked at with an outside consultant, which I will tell you is important. Employees, first of all, have much more confidence if there's a competent professional outside consultant than if even very well qualified internal staff members do these studies. We were able to document that we looked at just simply requirements of the job responsibilities, external comparisons, make sure we had internal equity. And based on that, the EOC, usually they issue what's called a right to sue letter. They'll say, well, we're not making a ruling whether this claim has merit or not, but we're just opening the door to federal court. That didn't happen in this case. They dismissed the claim, which is rare because we had the documentary evidence to prove that we were doing the right things the right way. So your HR director just had a great job, a terrifying job of listing a long list of federal and state laws that we have to comply with and every employer has to comply with. It is not easy to do that, but I am here to tell you that the more carefully you look long range and comprehensively across the organization with some outside eyes and minds helping you to do that, the stronger position we are going to be in to defend the county against claims that are inevitably going to be filed. I'm happy to help answer questions.
One other thing I wanted to point out that you reminded me of is that as we have seen some additional funding sources through this pandemic, the enforcement entities for these laws have seen additional funding sources come as well. So they have committed themselves to saying they're going to be looking at more things than ever before. We also have an opportunity here to say, okay, let's get ahead of this because we know that those funding streams were sort of put on hold for a moment. They were supposed to be earmarked for a certain thing. That bill that they were going to be earmarked for didn't get passed. So now they were told, okay, since you're not going to put that funding there, we're not going to take the funding away from you. Instead, what we're going to do is tell you, yes, do more enforcement. We want to see more of that and check into more things. You guys have spent a lot of time through the pandemic not going out and doing these kinds of audits, not going out and doing these kinds of checks. Now that you have the funding to do that, you have free reign to go start looking at more organizations. So I think that that's an important thing to note as well. One other thing, this is off topic, but I don't want to forget about it because this is an important thing that employees asked for, is support for accountability. So that's another thing, not a budgetary thing that we're going to be putting in place, is a little bit more tools for accountability. And you all have helped with that with the NeoGov platform. There's a performance management component of that that can be kept up to date on a regular basis for accountability. So again, looking at, Ellis was talking about, it's not just the pay study, it's not just the internal audit. There's, policies we need to look at. So this presentation tonight is saying we are recognizing it in HR. We are trying to address these things, and we are seeking a little bit of support, because if we try to accomplish all of these things, we may be responding that our workload is a little bit too heavy on the next survey too.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. We talked about external studies being done, and I think we were talking about 9 months for that to take place. Is that right? What have we performed a cost study, or do we have any idea about what that would cost the county to implement that?
To conduct the study or to implement results of the study?
Well, both. You can say
Okay,
both.
implementing results of the study, that's a little bit harder to identify what they're going to come back with, because we're looking at such a broad range of things compared to what we've looked at in the past. Now, to actually conduct the study, as Ms. York had mentioned at the recent meeting that you guys had, it's looking like the preliminary estimates for it are $130,000 to $140,000. We do have, I did speak to our finance department, and we do have a couple of potential funding sources. You guys are fairly aware of those funding sources as well, because it's some of the balances that we have.
Fund balances?
Yeah, some fund balances that we have available to us. That is the other reason why now is a better time maybe to look at this than in coming years, to do something so comprehensive as this right now, because the kinds of funds available for anything to be done throughout the county are greater than what has been available in recent history. And we know, if we look at history, pandemics come around about every 120 years. So want to take advantage of what we've got available to us now.
Oh, thank you. I have a couple questions,
Yes.
actually. Mr. Chairman, may I?
Go ahead.
Were you getting ready to speak? I'm sorry, I didn't see you if I
No, go ahead.
interrupted.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
When was the last time that we did any kind of study in Person County,
We did a study.
or an audit rather? When did we do an HR audit?
The last study we did was a compression study.
That was a salary study.
That was a
Yes,
salary,
but
yeah.
just-
We have not done an HR audit,
Not done a
Never.
full comprehensive HR.
never
audit.
done a comprehensive HR audit.
I think we've been skating on thin ice. Okay. Wow. I was going to ask what other places have benefited from this, but the attorney has given us a really good example of something very recently that he was involved in, so I can kind of see. Last year's turnover, you said, was 10% retirement and the rest just people deciding. Are there any departments or any particular areas that are seeing more turnover versus others? Have we identified where the bulk of the turnovers are happening per department?
That is something that we're going to look into a little bit further because that is in fact a great question. And you reminded me of another question that you had about exit surveys.
Exits, yeah, what?
Yes,
what are we
so we're
hearing?
going to be, have been using exit surveys that are on paper. So we're moving toward an electronic option. We're also looking at how we can do more of those because we're not seeing as great of results, as in not as many people responding.
Are
as
we
we
not
would
doing
need.
them in person?
We had been doing them in person, and then we were starting to provide them on paper as part of the exit process as we were starting to sort of distance from the pandemic. So we're moving back towards doing more in person to try to get better results. And that should lead us to see if there's more turnover, because presumably there's going to be more people leaving in larger departments.
So do we know if people are
that's-
staying locally or they're going somewhere else?
There are many people that are going locally. There are a few people through this pandemic that are going nowhere, that are deciding that they're going to be at home. And that they are just going to change the way that they do things within their family structure to support that differently. But that is something that indeed we need to gather some additional information on.
Mhm. When you make reference to community partners working, what community partners specifically are you identifying?
So I need to get to know Person County a little bit better and what community partners we have available to us. But I've been speaking with the department directors to help me figure that out. And I know in HR, for example, we definitely have our community partner of our health insurance provider on the wellness side of things. We have an opportunity to partner with School of Government for some of these things. For example, some of the internal HR audit pieces that we can reference some of their training materials and things if we have a question, and they have checklists and things of that nature. And also with regard to policy updates, they're a great resource for that. A lot of those policies that you saw identified that Amy was talking about, or Catherine, goodness, now I can't remember who had mentioned it. Sorry about that. But when we were listening to the retreat, and there was talk of what is going to be required with the ARP funds and all of those policies.
Mhm.
School of Government is going to be a great partner to help us with that. And like I said, that is one of our action items, is to look at policies. So that's another partner. And our health insurance broker as well is another good partner. Interestingly, they're also a great partner that can tell us a little bit about what's going on in the market, because they have a fairly large book of business and
Mhm.
can help us identify what other folks are doing.
Well, I know in the private sector for a fact, and you probably, Kyle, know this, flexibility has become a real big thing for working people. They want the flexibility that they've come to enjoy during the pandemic.
Mhm.
And I don't personally see from what industry information that I get from across the country that most employers are facing this, and the call back to the office may change. And so I think we have to plug that into there somehow. I think it's good that we have some flexibility where we can have flexibility, but then again, when it comes to flexibility, you've got to have accountability.
That's
You've
the
got to-
NeoGov, yep.
You've got to know that the people are, I mean, in government and in a lot of places, it's, what are you doing 8 hours a day? Some people have a philosophy, I don't care if you do the job in 8 hours or 8 minutes, as long as the entire job or project gets completed. But here, we have to track that a little bit differently. 236 employees participated in the survey out of 400 and some. So we have like a 50% participation rate, which is good, considered a
Yes.
good. Okay.
It's considered quite a
Okay.
good response
And then,
rate.
so our compensation packages are not attached, like the figures attached to a salary in the compensation package, are they presented to employees, or when we post positions? I've never asked this, so I don't know. Here's the worth, the value of your entire employment package. Are we doing that, or is it just a salary base that we're posting and just saying you've got benefits? Are we not attaching a dollar figure to those benefits maybe?
We have both. So when we're posting a job, like on the GovJobs,
Mhm.
we're usually posting a hiring rate or a range for a position So that's just just the salary piece. It
Mhm.
does reference benefits, which they can then access if they go to our webpage. And we do
Okay.
have some brochures, that they can download or print that lists all the benefits that are attached to the position as well.
Okay. The last big takeaway that I got from your presentation, and I looked at most of the slides yesterday and again today, was the communications,
Mhm.
the organization of the communication process between departments, between all heads of government. I've been pushing for an information officer. I think we've tried to contract that out without success. I think we need to have someone on staff to coordinate that. If we're losing or not retaining people because we're not well organized and our communications between departments is not there, if we're not communicating to the public what's going on, I mean, people just don't know and they want easy access. And I think it's going to be a lot easier with a new website, but I think we really need someone to coordinate this. It's no longer a luxury. It's a necessity to have an information officer so that the departments can do their work, but yet the information of what they're doing is getting out. So I thank you for that very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the nice things about these surveys sometimes is that we can confirm that the actions that we're trying to take are in line with what employees care about.
Mhm.
And definitely communication, you hit the nail right on the head there. That is something that came up that employees would like a little bit more of. And to your point of how are we sharing our total compensation package, that is something that is on the docket for my HR team when we look at switching over to the new website to update our department page to have more information of
Mhm.
that nature there. We're also partnering with IT right now to see if there are some options with regard to communication platforms for the entire organization that we could sort of get up and running as a strong skeleton with some things in there that we already have available. And then if we were to have a public information officer supporting that, then we could add into that or piece that out per department if there were certain components that we wanted to add to it. There's a variety of different platforms upon which we communicate with employees. So having a centralized location is something that IT is assisting me with trying to create.
Say like a souped up listserv.
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. And so some of it will have links
Mhm.
to other
Mhm.
areas so that they know they can go here and they can, if they want to have some learning development opportunities, they can go to NeoGov or they could go to, we have a Know Before that we utilize for cybersecurity that we're already utilizing. So then that would be up there, policies all in kind of one spot. We're using Tyler Technologies, as you guys are aware of, for some things and listing things there. So if there's one spot and it can sort of link back to these other things, we have a variety of newsletters that employees get on a regular basis, communication from our health partners, EAP, that's, people are asking about stress management. EAP is another partner that we have. So if we can put all of those resources in one place, I think that will be beneficial. It would take a lot more to make that really robust, but a start is a start.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
What I really like is that the compensation and beneficiary, we're going to be working on getting that information to the employees. Because I know with me, I get an annual review of what my salary is and also what the compensation is, benefits, and things of that nature. And when you look at that, it does make a difference when you think about what you're making and then also what your benefits are and how much it's costing the county or your company. So I think that's very important. May even help retain some people if they sit back and say, whoa, wait a minute, my salary is this, but actually my benefits are here. It may make a difference. I also think that some of the things that we're going to be dealing with is if it doesn't change, is the price of gas and people traveling, how far away they are from Roxborough, and how you're going to retain them. These people may be either looking for where they work at home
Mhm.
and only come in once a week or something. Or they're going to, if they can't do that, they're going to be looking for something closer to the house because it's getting very
Mhm.
expensive out there. So.
Mhm.
Maybe a question, if you don't mind.
Please.
First, thank you for coming to Person County and getting involved with our employees and.
Well, thank you for
as
having me.
said, learning the culture.
Yes.
Who we are is who we are.
Mhm.
And you've joined in there very well. Just a couple of things. Thank you for doing the survey because I think that's an integral part of what we do. We need to hear from our employees and we need to hear their concerns. We would like for that percentage to be much higher the next time around so that we can, otherwise we don't know if they don't tell us.
Thank you,
Because-
employees. Did you hear that? Take it again.
Yeah.
Anybody
So
listening?
a question there, was there a particular reason the part-time employees were they not presented the opportunity to?
They were presented
Oh,
the
okay.
opportunity. Yes, they were. I think that part of it is that when we look at the total amount of part-time employees that we have, some of them are seasonal. And so they are not currently working because they're not working until the summer.
Well,
So
if we have a position open, although it's part-time, it's still important to the operations of county government. So
yes,
they're-
yes. So
they're-
that one was hard though. If it's somebody who's in like the Parks and Rec department that
I
only
understand.
works in June,
Yeah.
they didn't have an opportunity to take the survey. I can certainly think on that to see if there's ways to connect with them. But again, this comes back to communication, right? Of how can we improve upon our communications? That's why one of the questions that I asked was, how do you prefer to be communicated with? So that in the future I can do a little bit better. What we found out is that on our responses, people said email. Well, people who would respond to an electronic survey maybe would be more apt to consider email. So there's an opportunity for me to go around, get to know employees a little bit better. I've been trying to do that, but the longer I'm here, the more I get to know them, the more that we communicate about these things and take action on these things and they hear that we're hearing them. I think that'll help because part-time employees have communicated through this survey and then through personal conversations with HR of some of the things that they would like to see. And so if I can get them to write
Yeah.
it down, that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be good. And just one last point. I think the exit interview is probably just as important
Yes.
because you need to know why our employees are leaving. And that's going to help you in your job and for the organization of the county. So I would encourage employees to participate in that interview and do so very openly, candidly, factually, so that you will be able to see it in print. And I think that would be an important part of what you do as a follow-up to an employee leaving. Anyone else have comments?
Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
Chairman, I'm sorry. I do have a comment and a question. My comment is I want to help us get out of this drab feeling that we feel right now, because it's not only Person County. This is statewide. Sheriff's Department, Police Department, manufacturing facilities, shortages of workers.
Yes,
So this is not just the county.
that is absolutely accurate. It's not just the county, but if we can be kind of cream of the crop in the county, then
Right.
hopefully it'll be a problem that we see more with others than ourselves.
Okay, my question, how many full-time versus part-time employees do we typically have on staff?
That is a question that your HR director should know the answer to off the top of her head. And I don't. But I will get back to you. That is a good question. I will get back to you on that. Heidi, do you know that number off the top of your head?
Yeah,
See,
we have
blank.
about 400 full-time employees. And then we have in total about 200 seasonal,
68,
temporary,
268. That's what it was
part-time
last.
employees.
Okay,
And that just fluctuates depending on the season. A lot of those are Parks and Rec employees, those temporary, seasonal,
Right, right.
part-time employees. But yes, somewhere around that.
Okay.
Thank you. I knew when you said it, I'd get it. It would come back to me.
Miranda and I have commented or replied back and forth several times since she's been working on this, and I want to commend you for your efforts and your hard work. I want to commend all the employees right now that work for the county.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, it has been an effort on behalf of the entire team. So lots of people looked at the survey, lots of people helped me to draft questions and review it. Lots of people took the survey, so that means a lot that you would say that, because it has been
Absolutely.
an effort, and it's nice to hear that.
Have
Any
you looked
other-
at I guess, a precise employee recognition platform? I know we have a wellness director, but more or less a program that allows supervisors to acknowledge the good work that their employees are engaged in. I mean, the most important thing with a worker is they have to feel valued, and they have to make sure that they're being meaningful in their performance and want to provide a positive impact to the rest of their team, because one person with a negative attitude can really affect the atmosphere of others.
Absolutely.
So I was just looking, I know there's some platforms out there to where you can receive any milestones, like a service anniversary or your birthday. I know in my case, managers are required to know all that information and make sure that you go out of your way to acknowledge the workers that may be having a down day or maybe kind of bummed out at the time, because recognition goes a long way.
Yes.
You can brighten someone's day with just a note, a thank you card, but maybe of an electronic platform to where it allows the supervisors or even other teammates to acknowledge other teammates for helping out or doing a good job. And I was curious if you had possibly looked at that or worked with that in the past.
So the platforms that I've used in the past in my career for that usually have funding tied to it.
Mhm.
So that isn't something that I had necessarily considered strongly for Person County at this time, but would be very open to. I think that's something that employees would enjoy. I also hear another piece of this that I can look into a little bit further. If you know of any specific platforms for this, or maybe we could try to build something of this nature out of saying, just remember that this employee's birthday is at this time and that employee's anniversary is at that time. I do know that the communications platform that we're looking at with IT does have that information available. So that's one of the things as we look at what's our onboarding process. Can we improve that to ensure that every employee fills out their profile, so that information is right there electronically for supervisors to see and coworkers to see. And it wouldn't say the year that an employee is for their birthday, but it would just say the date.
Would allow them to opt in and out, because some people just don't want to participate. I mean, unfortunately, they could opt out or into it.
They could opt in or out of adding their birthday.
Right.
But we would want them to do certain aspects of their profile, no matter what, like what department they're in. And that's,
Because I know some people that they don't want anybody to know it's their birthday today.
Yep. It's just not something that is a thing they enjoy. That's true. Yeah. But so we do sort of have a platform for that if it's just a communication piece that we're looking at. But as far as giving tokens of some sort, that isn't something that we have from a recognition standpoint at this time. It's definitely perhaps an opportunity
I
for
think
us.
it's something to look at. I can get with Heidi and give you, and come up with some, I know a few software programs that may be a fit, and if it's appropriate, we can explore that option, but mainly, it's gonna take a while for what you're saying for this HR audit from start to finish, especially with the implementation. And this may be something along the way that we can build in while that process is going on.
Yeah, that's what I want to try to do. My team has advised me to not bite off more than I can chew with our current staff, the size that we have. So I'm trying to do that, but I'm also just very excited about the things that are available to us at Person County and the folks that want to be involved. So I definitely want to recognize them. I want to hear what they have to say about certain things, even if I can't turn it from night to day. Maybe I can turn it to dawn, and that's good enough for now. And so if we can just continue to move in the right direction, that would be great. And that's the other reason why I wanted to talk to you guys tonight and say, what are your recommendations? What are you hearing? What resources have you seen? Because I really think of it as we haven't necessarily had this opportunity, but as much as I'm a member of the team of any other department, you guys are a member of the team as well. So I want to hear any and all ideas that we have and to try to move forward with those. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, this, there's lots of information. Now, are you requesting for us to approve moving forward with nothing? It's just information now.
It's
But
just
you're gonna need
information.
feedback at some point. So how are we going about that, Manager York?
Well, if there's any feedback you'd like to give to Miranda in terms of moving forward, particularly with the study, if there is not, then we will intend to put that in your upcoming budget for discussion. So if you wanted to move forward, ahead of budget time, we could go ahead and issue an RFP with the funding to come in the budget. So we're just sort of bouncing ideas off to get some feedback from the board.
That's what I assumed, but I also read this. So, okay.
So yeah, the RFP process is one that we would have to do, whether we do it in a few months or we do it now. If in fact approved at any point in time, that's part of the process that we would need to do. So the question is kind of, I've got a couple of notes on some other things with regard to recognition platform, flexibility in teleworking, comp and benefits report, and again, the communication PIO. So those are some of the notes that I have here. But if you'd like me to take any sort of preliminary actions to get more information from an RFP on this, this study, then feel free to let me know and I'll get to work on it as soon as tomorrow.
Okay, well, we'll move on. We'll get back with you.
Okay,
Thank you. It might be in a budget session, but
okay.
That's fine.
is that good?
Yep.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be back with you guys. So we're going to be talking about, I think, health insurance coming up in the near future. So if you decide between now and whenever, feel free to get a hold of Ms. York and we'll get moving on it. So thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Item number 3 on the agenda is a review of board appointed boards and committees. Commissioner Gentry.
Yeah, I was curious and I asked the county manager how many boards and commissions we had in Person County and when was the last time we looked and reviewed them and looked at the necessity of the boards or the combination of boards. I'm not sure how they've come to the life they have, but we've got, what, 26?
27 boards currently.
Huh?
We have 27.
27, yeah, that's down
Currently.
from 36.
That's right. And
Okay.
it looks like the last time we reviewed them.
Yeah,
was in
and right now,
2014.
anything outside the car-tar, because that's just a whole nother elephant to bite. I was going through and looking at the ABC. These are commissions that we either assign or ask for citizen volunteers and or a commissioner sits on the board. So the ABC board, what is the point of the citizens sitting on the ABC board? I guess I just want to know, I want to understand what's the purpose of citizens sitting on that board.
You want to
Please.
address that, Brenda?
There are very specific comprehensive statutes about the
Okay.
operation of local alcoholic beverage control systems, county or municipal.
Mhm.
And those board members have some significant operational responsibilities and oversight responsibilities.
Okay,
And their responsibilities are set out in the statutes.
okay. So of the boards that we have, what are mandated by statute then?
It's a good question.
You want to tackle that?
Well, for example, further down the list, Board of Adjustment.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a set of land use regulatory statutes, you must have a Board of Adjustment.
Mhm.
And those members obviously have significant responsibilities. Board of Elections is another one, obviously is required, and his responsibilities were set out by statute. Board of Health, same thing. Specifically about ones that are required by statute, Board of Equalization and Review, number 11, as part of the property tax process. Kind of an oldie but goodie. The Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority, what in the world is that? Those are conduit bonds that every now and then the county will issue, and the process is set out by statute with involvement. Bond
Should we
counsel.
update the county attorney's name?
Yes, we can do that.
I'm making my way down the list about the ones that are required. Planning board, same thing. Got a set of that Board of Adjustment. Social Services Board, clearly required by statute. Tourism Development Authority Board, not by statute necessarily, but by a local act that under which the General Assembly authorized levy of that tax. Along with it, in that local act came the board to help the Board of County Commissioners oversee that program. The Workforce Development Regional Board, there are statutory provisions about that. So many of these are either required by statute, or if you do something else, then you have to have this board. Some are options.
Okay. Well, one of the things I noticed too, I wasn't sure why there was, like, I think on the Animal Control Board, there's 12 members to the board. What is going on with our animals in Person County? I'm just curious that it takes so many people. I don't understand it, and I'm looking for clarity.
That's an advisory board. There's a big difference between an advisory board that has no rule-making authority and as opposed to the ones who do either make rules or make quasi-judicial decisions like the Board of Adjustment.
So all the other boards then just don't have any authority whatsoever.
Well, they
That
would just
are
be
li-
advisory.
They're advisory boards only, but they don't have any statutory authority or any governance authority
That's
whatsoever.
right.
Okay. On the Board of Equalization, that's the appeals process when people have to come forward with their property taxes and whatnot. And I have a problem that I think that a county commissioner being on the board that approves the budget and the tax rates and everything else, that a member of the county commission could sit on the Board of Equalization as well. I just don't think that's a very good thing for the commissioner who sits on the main board that sets the public policy to also sit on that board when someone's coming to petition a grievance about the tax rate that was set by the board or the tax amount that he's being assessed. I think it's a bit of a conflict of interest.
The original statute is that the Board of Equalization was originally the Board of County Commissioners.
I know that, and that's
And
why.
we switched it out. But just as with any other board, you had one county commissioner representative to serve in that capacity.
Attorney Ellis, Mr. Ellis, is there a conflict of interest?
It's, in my view, not an inherent conflict of interest.
Not in a
There's-
narrow conflict of interest?
Sorry,
It's not in a narrow,
not an inherent
inherent, okay.
automatic conflict of interest by any means. There's some value with that one and the other ones. In individual commissioners having hands-on, eyes on what the board is doing, and sometimes being able to report back to the Board of Commissioners about what that board is doing and how and why and what its needs are. I have not looked at that particular statute in a while. I'm happy to do it about composition of the board. Some of these actually require that membership by a member of this board.
Right. No, I understand. I'm just, from a citizen's standpoint, it can be somewhat challenging to consider that you're dual purposed, setting the policy and then interpreting my,
Well, this board of commissioners sets the policy, i.e. the tax rate,
Mhm.
and then the professional employees in the tax office obviously do all the studies and all that you know more about than I do, to set the value of property that the tax rate that the board of commissioners adopts is applied to. It's not really a conflict, in my view, for a member of the board of commissioners to sit on that appeals body and remember, take an oath that he or she is going to apply the law fairly in those quasi-judicial hearings, and those are quasi-judicial hearings, and make sound decisions just like this board of commissioners does in some of the special use permit land use decisions.
Okay. All right, I wanted clarification because that's never made sense to me, because I've had to go before that board. Okay. That's it for me. Anybody else have any questions on all the boards that we have?
Commissioner Gentry, I was wondering, looking at what we as county commissioners are on, and you have that list just like I do, was presented to us. Is there any concerns that you have about those committees?
No, I just wanted clarification as to why we have them all. Some are statutory, some are not. Some are requested. The car is a big part of it, but like I said, that's an elephant that I just wouldn't address right now because that's just something that I have to wrap my head around, that whole organization in general.
There, from a strictly legal point of view, there's probably something that we need to do to consider this list. There's a constitutional provision and a statutory provision that limits the number of offices any particular person can hold, called the multiple office holder statute, and the constitutional provision that requires that. And basically what it says is if something is an office, and that's not always clear, but clearly the body that has decision-making authority is very probably an office. Board of Equalization and Review is, the rule is any one person can only hold one elective and one appointive office. So we probably need to review that. I don't know, when was the
We
last
have.
time we did?
Yeah, we have. It was my understanding that that was not applicable to commissioners, but to citizens.
There are some statutory exceptions. That's right.
Chairman Powell,
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, sir.
I'm on 5 different advisory committees. And one I occasionally visit, Extension. JCPC is always right in the middle of my workday. So what are the repercussions, or what are their ramifications, or what's the fallout that I'm looking at by not being able to attend?
Not going to be pay reduction.
Thank you. That's all I need to hear.
Good. We'll talk about that. Is that okay? We
Sure.
talk about.
Sure, I'm just curious. It's been on my brain for a year and 3 months now.
Good. No problem. Be happy to discuss it with you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Gentry is. at all?
I'm finished. I don't have any further questions.
All right.
I
Thank
bet you're
you.
happy about that.
All of those, I think, are important. When we look over that list and see what they're doing, they may not be what we might call statutory or essential, but they are essential in the category of how they serve Person County. So I think they're all valued by this commission. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, a request from the Board of Education for the Board of Commissioners to authorize a signature. Dr. Peterson.
Good
Evening.
Appreciate, excuse me, I appreciate you putting this on your agenda this evening. And it's 21-22 budget, the General Assembly allocated $395 million towards needs-based capital grants and authorized the Department of Public Instruction to issue those. Part of the Department of Public Instruction's avenue to do that is through application grants. And you can apply for elementary, middle, high, or needs-based. And what our facility committee has recommended to our board this morning was to apply for the $30 million for a new elementary school to look at trying to serve some of the facility needs that we have in the audit that you received back in 2018. This morning, our board did approve the authorization of Ms. Tillman, our chairman, to sign the application. What we're looking to do tonight is asking the commissioners to do that for Mr. Powell to be able to sign for that intent on the application. Your match for the grant is 5%, which 30 million would be 1.5 million. And it does not, unlike grants before, it does not allow, or it does not require our school system to give up lottery funds. So this will be just a straight match. And the match is based on the income, based on the sales tax ratio, and based on adjusted market value. And your part would be 5% of the 30 million.
Okay, board member questions?
Commissioners, I just wanted to make you aware that we also had a conversation with our debt consultants to find out if this 1.5 million could be part of the financing that we're planning, the $10 million that we're planning to finance next year. And they said, yes, it could be. The match could become part of that. That just reduces your capacity then by 1.5 million if you're going to use those funds. So that is a possibility. If that is more palatable to you than an additional appropriation from fund balance as a match.
Okay. Board member questions?
Do you have a preference? Does finance have a preference as to how that fund match or how the match is?
I think when we were all around the conference room table, we liked the idea of just folding this into the financing. And I think the turnaround on this is fairly quickly, so we'll know before I have to propose the budget.
Our due date is March 15th, somewhere around there. Our notice of on the competitive side is April 12th. We would know.
So we'll know before your proposed budget.
And we also know now well in advance that we are going to be spending money on the schools.
Yes.
We know this.
Yep.
So.
Any other questions? So desire the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the request.
We have a motion to approve the request. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. Thank you,
Thank you very
sir.
much for your
Thank you.
support.
Okay. For chairman's report, maybe just a brief update on the airport hangar project that's moving along and still on schedule for completion in April. And excuse me, we do now have some timelines for the runway extension project, since we've already gotten half of that funding in the county bank, I'll say. So Amy has that in her budget, and the remaining half will come to the county June 30th. So again, with the timelines and the authority to expand those fundings as we see fit. We don't have to go to Raleigh and ask for permission. But anyway, those two things are moving along well. And in not recent days or months, it's been recent years, we continue with other projects. Some of these are long-term. One of those being the 501 completion of that project. That's we've worked on for a long time. It's been on the books and on the table since
35 years.
1996. And so as recent as last summer, and more recently with others, I've talked with legislatures about that project. So that's just a brief overview of some things that we've got ongoing and keep working at. Manager York.
I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news on the hangar project, but I'd be remiss
Okay.
if I didn't mention
I
that.
didn't know that. So
Well,
go
we
ahead.
had to change out one of the fire suppression systems.
Okay.
I think we talked about that. It was a change order, so it's pushed the project a little further down the road, but we're not talking significant delays.
Further than April.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
That's good. We're
yeah.
Still okay.
So that's coming. We're also in the midst of working through departmental budget requests right now. So I have the next couple of weeks sitting down with all of the county departments to understand what their upcoming needs are and trying to pull together a recommended budget. So we are right in the throes of budget and looking forward to making some progress on that. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sims,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Palmer.
Again, I would like to reiterate, I do appreciate our county employees and all the hard work that they do in the field and in office.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Gentry.
Yes, I agree, Mr. Palmer. It's great. I have a question. Person County still under a declaration of state of emergency?
The county has tended to follow the governor's direction, and the governor, as you know, has not yet removed the state of emergency. I had asked about whether or not there was some funding tied to that. We know that the governor granted some flexibility in terms of allowing meetings to be remote, but I did not get a solid answer back about the funding, so we're looking into that. But we have deferred to follow the governor's direction on that declaration unless the board would like to do something different.
Is there a reason Person County is under a state of emergency today?
Just following executive order. I think most counties have followed that.
That's fine. The governor's not the king.
Right, we're just an arm of the state. If the board would like me to do some research on what other counties have done or why the governor has not instructed us to remove that, I could do that. I don't know off the top of my head.
Would you like
Miss-
that?
Yes,
You
I
know
would.
anything?
Mr. Attorney, do you have a thought on this?
I don't know any more than the county manager said.
I mean, I just don't understand today why we are still under a state of emergency.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I know that I think that Durham County or Durham has lifted their or made it optional with the mask. I do know that some of the schools have not, but reading and listening to other counties, I mean, I know that you're hearing those that are going to optional wearing the mask. But
So the-
certainly I would say check into it and see where we're at with
Okay.
that. And I mean.
Just to clarify, the state of emergency is different than the mask mandate.
Mhm.
We did lift the mask mandate. It is optional for county offices as of March
March
1st with new signage. There are some exceptions, of course, for some of our services that do still require masks, but overall, that is not part of the state of the emergency. We were given local authority to make those decisions.
Well, if you could find out, I would like to propose that we rescind this at our next meeting.
Commissioner Perrier.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to echo Commissioner Palmer's remarks and personally thank the county employees for all of their hard work, especially during this pandemic, and really do value their hard work and expertise and look forward to continue serving with them.
Thank you very much. This time, we need a motion to go into closed session number one, a motion to enter into closed session number one per general statute 143-18.11A5 to establish or to instruct the public bodies, staff, or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property or real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease with the following individuals permitted to attend: County Attorney Ellis Hankins, County Manager Heidi York, Clerk to the Board Brenda Reeves, Assistant County Manager Catherine Cathy, Planning Director Lori Oakley, and John Hill, Director of Arts, Parks, and Recreation.
So moved.
Have a motion to go into closed session. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, motion carried. And we might need about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to get everything shut down.